Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Singaporean watch review. On this Shiok Saturday, I'm reviewing the Gentlemen's collection from British watch microbrand Pompeak watches. Now, without further ado, let's delve right into the specifications. So firstly, the Gentlemen's collection from Pompeak watches uses sapphire crystal, so it's virtually scratch proof. I believe there are some AR coating applied as well. In terms of water resistance rating, it's rated at 100 meters of water resistance, so you don't have to worry about it getting wet when you're caught in the rain or if you spill a coffee over it. However, just don't submerge it, in the pool or in the bathtub. Next, the watch actually uses the Miyota 8 series movement. So the Miyota 8 series movement, is one of the most reliable, workhorse movement there is at this price point. So it beats at 21,600 beats per hour. It hand winds, has about 42 hours of power reserve, but does not hack. So as you can see from the case back, it actually looks quite well decorated here. You see a bit of pelaging, you see the rotor turning, etc. I'd like to see perhaps a custom rotor, but nonetheless, all things considered, I think it's a pretty well decorated movement. You can also see the movement, from the open heart. You can see the balance view of the movement from the open heart. So that's quite nice. So I'd like to highlight that you'll find this same Miyota 82S5 movement instead of 7 Fridays models. Of course, 7 Friday watches are cost probably twice or even thrice of what this Pompeak Gentlemen cost. So again, no qualms and quibbles about the Miyota movement used here. Next, I would like to highlight also that perhaps the metal bracelet that's used on this Pompeak Gentlemen is actually quite well done. It's firstly made of solid metal, so not those hollow end links that you see on some of the cheaper watches. This is solid metal, and you can feel it, you can feel the heft. It's also quite well finished. You can see the alternating brush polish sort of finishing here. Interestingly, it uses a hidden clasp, so you have to press and it opens up like this. So hidden clasp bracelet usually found on more dressier watches, like you might find on let's say a Tissot the Lock, for example. So that's an interesting choice that Pompeak watches made. Yeah, but overall, I get quite a well, solid, sturdy, well finished bracelet, especially considering this $500 plus price point. That's surprisingly, there's also Swiss BGW9 Super Luminova, which is a nice touch. If you need to tell the time in the darkness or at night, that shouldn't be an issue. Okay, moving on to the design of the watch. While the specifications are pretty decent, I think that the design of the watch is actually what captures the attention. So the Pompeak Gentlemen possess a layered tapestry dial that reminds me of the iconic tapestry dial of the Audemars Piguet's Royal Oaks. The bottom layer actually features sort of like a radial sunburst pattern, whereas the top layer features the more standard tapestry pattern that you might find on the Royal Oaks. So I quite like it. It plays very well in different lighting conditions. The Pompeak Gentlemen comes in two dial variants. There's the navy one that we have here, as well as the black. Between the two, I definitely go for the navy one. It's definitely the more striking, more eye-catching variant. In addition, you can see that the indices as well as the dolphin hands are actually polished. So again, the polished nature of the indices as well as the hands adds to the dressy nature of the watch. There's also a printed railway track. Let me hold this closer to the camera. Running on the outskirts of the dial. So again, it's a vintage touch that's reminiscent of dress watches like the Cartier Tang or even the A. Lange & Söhne 1815. So overall, I would say it's actually a pretty dressy dial. In case you haven't noticed as well, there's also an open heart, as I mentioned previously, which allows the wearer to admire the balance wheel and the mechanical movement beating within. If you wear it, you see it, you're wearing a mechanical watch. Combined with the dual layered dial as well as applied indices, the open heart actually gives the watch, a significant sense of depth. Overall, I would say the dial and the watch is one that possesses depth as well as very nice textures to it. There's also an off-centered, sub-seconds dial, so you can see the second hand slowly ticking away. Now, I like the off-centered nature of the placement. I also like how the open heart window as well as the sub-second dial sort of intersects. I like the play of the circular shapes there. Sort of reminds me of like a Venn diagram, so to say. There's also the text. Let me hold it closer to the camera. There's also the text 10 ATM water resistant written at 7 o'clock. So again, this off-centered placing of the text placement plays well with the off-centered placement of the open heart window as well as the sub dial. So yeah, I quite like, how the aesthetic choices that Pompeak has made here. There's a lot going on, but overall, it comes together in a very cohesive manner. Moving on to the case of the watch, as you guys can see, it's polished throughout. It's pretty angular as well, all things considered. There are crown guards, and that juts out. I would say the case finishing is perhaps one of the aspects that betrays the lower price point of the watch. You don't really get the higher level of finishing, the beveling or the contrast in textures, brushing, polishing that you might find on higher price watches. It's really simply just simply polished throughout. That being said, the crown is actually quite nice. If the camera can focus, you see that it's signed with the Pompeak logo. There's a screw down one as well. So, again, it contributes towards that 100-meter water resistance rating, so it pops up. So, you can wind it. Hand winding it is well sized. So, hand winding it, as you can see I'm doing now, is an ease. So, yeah, goes in well as well. Alright, without further ado, let me just give you a reshot. There you go. Perhaps I can do a slow restro. Okay, that's not that slow. Let's go slower. There, isn't that a beauty? So on my 7-inch wrist, I would say the 40mm specifications case size of the watch, of the Pompeak Gentlemen's watch, is pretty spot on. As you can see, it wears very well. I would say on my 7-inch wrist, 39, 40mm watches are just about my sweet spot, and these definitely falls right into that category. One thing that I really like about the dimension is that it's pretty thin as well. So the watch, despite it using the Miyota 8 series movement, is only 10.4mm thick. So it will slide very easily under a shirt cuff with a suit and tie. So as compared to other watches that I reviewed, for example the Aries Gold El Toro that also uses the Miyota 8 series movement, those watches tend to be 12 or even 13mm thick. So I'm not quite sure how Pompeak managed to trim it down to just 10.4mm, but that's a very nice touch I really appreciated. Again, it being thin on the wrist, wearing low on the wrist enhances the dressy vibe of the watch. Will go very easily with a shirt and tie. Yeah, overall, I'm pretty impressed by the watch. So, again, like I mentioned, the specifications are quite decent, right? There's, sapphire crystal, there's 100 meters of water resistance rating, there's a reliable Miyota 8 series movement, there's a sturdy metal bracelet that's well finished, as well as Swiss, BG W9 Super Luminova. But what really captures attention, I think, for me is the beautiful dial. Just look at the dual layered dial, the sunburst finishing, the tapestry pattern, the open heart, the off-centered sub dial. It just comes together in a very nice, very attractive, very detailed but not messy, a very well thought together and executed package. Yeah. So I really like the aesthetics of this watch. My only knock on this watch, if I had to find one, is probably the price. So the MSRP of the Pompeak Gentlemen's collection is £329. So that translates to about 580 Singapore dollars, which in my opinion is perhaps a tad high. I would still say that it's a fair price, but I wouldn't say that it's a value proposition or it's a bargain by any means. So in my opinion, if they could get the price down to about £279, perhaps at 492 Singapore dollars, which is about 492 Singapore dollars or 500 Singapore dollars, that would be great. That being said, Pompeak has kindly provided my readers with a discount code. So simply quote "Wow so Shiok" while checking out to enjoy 10% off all Pompeak watches. After the discount, this watch can be had for a more palatable £296 or about 520 Singapore dollars. So at 520 Singapore dollars or about £296, I'll say it's a fair price for what I think is a very well put together watch. Alright, that's it for me for today. There's another review coming out tomorrow, so if you're interested in that, do check that out on my channel. Again, if you like my content, if you like the reviews, please do subscribe, that will help us a lot. Alright, take care and see you in the next video. Bye!